war of words is turning sharper and louder. A threat from Donald Trump, a defiant reply from Tehran. Missiles, nukes, and red lines are back in the spotlight as Washington signals force and Iran warns of consequences that will not be forgotten. This is not diplomacy. This is deterrence spoken in ultimatums. Iran's president has fired a sharp warning in response to Donald Trump's latest threat. On social media, Masoud Pezeshkian vowed that any new aggression against Iran would be met with a severe and regret-inducing response. The message was unmistakable. Tehran will not absorb another strike quietly. The warning came hours after Trump escalated his rhetoric from U.S. soil. Standing beside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Florida, the U.S. president threatened to eradicate any attempt by Iran to rebuild its nuclear or missile capabilities. He claimed future strikes could be more powerful than the last. Trump's remarks marked a notable shift. For the first time, he openly linked potential U.S. military action not only to Iran's nuclear program, but also to its conventional missile systems, a pillar of Iran's defense strategy. Iranian officials reject Washington's framing. They insist their nuclear program remains peaceful, pointing to repeated international inspections and denials of weapons development. Tehran accuses the U.S. of using unverified claims to justify military pressure. Iran's response did not stop with the president. Ali Shamkhani, a senior advisor to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, warned that Iran's missile capabilities are not subject to foreign permission. Any miscalculation, he said, would trigger an immediate and harsh response beyond expectations. For decades, Tehran has described its missile arsenal as purely deterrent, a shield in a region crowded with U.S. bases and hostile forces. Iranian leaders say limiting missile range would leave the country exposed to long-range threats. Iran has also rejected demands to dismantle its nuclear infrastructure, calling them violations of international law and the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Instead, officials accuse Washington of maintaining a policy of coercion, backed by sanctions and force. The tension is not unfolding in isolation. The United States joined Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear sites earlier this year, deepening hostilities and reinforcing Tehran's warnings that future confrontations will not be symbolic. As the rhetoric intensified, Moscow urged restraint. The Kremlin called for dialogue and warned against steps that could push the region toward wider conflict. Russia emphasized that escalation would benefit no one. With threats traded publicly and military options discussed openly, the standoff has entered a dangerous phase. Washington signals dominance, Tehran signals defiance, and between them lies a region where one misstep could turn warnings into war.
I'd like to know if you and the Prime Minister talked about having Israel pull back its troops before Hamas fully disarms. I know that's been an issue. Did you push for that today?
Well, we talked about Hamas and we talked about disarmament, and they're going to be given a very short period of time to disarm, and we'll see how that works out. Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be in charge of that from our side, but if they don't disarm, as they agreed to do, they agreed to it, and then they'll be held to pay for them. And we don't want that. We're not looking for that. But they have to disarm within a fairly short period of time.
Was Israel withdrawing its forces?
Well, that's a separate subject. We'll talk about that.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Mr. President, did you have a message for the Prime Minister about the West Bank? And are you at all concerned that settler violence, Israeli settler violence, could be undermining the peace plan that you
Well, we have had a discussion, big discussion, for a long time on the West Bank. And I wouldn't say we agree on the West Bank 100%, but we will come to a conclusion on the West Bank.
If I could ask, what is the disagreement?
Well, I don't want to do that. It'll be announced at an appropriate time. But he will do the right thing. I know that. And speaking of Iran, I hope they're not trying to build up again, because if they are, we're going to have no choice but very quickly to eradicate that buildup. So I hope Iran is not trying to build up, as I've been reading that they're building up weapons and other things. And if they are, they're not using the sites that we obliterated, but they're using possibly different sites. We know exactly where they're going, what they're doing, and I hope they're not doing it, because we don't want to waste the fuel on a B-2. It's a 37-hour trip both ways. I don't want to waste a lot of fuel.
And also the nuclear weapon, but after the meeting, after what you know from the intelligence, how close are we to another war with Iran?
Well, I don't want to say that, but Iran may be behaving badly. It hasn't been confirmed, but if it's confirmed, look, they know the consequences. Consequences will be very powerful, maybe more powerful than the last time. Yeah. And Iran should have made a deal the last time. I gave them the option. I said, you can make a deal. Do it. I told them, do it. And they didn't believe me. Now they believe me.
Naval exercises basically to test encircling Taiwan. Can you explain to us what your knowledge is of that? What do you think about that? Have you had any discussions with China
Well, I have a
about
great
that?
relationship with President Xi, and he hasn't told me anything about it. I certainly have seen it, but he hasn't told me anything about it, and I don't believe he's going to be doing it.
Does it worry you?
No, nothing worries me.
But
nothing.
you said where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So if you're if you're doing naval exercises and air
Well,
exercises.
I've been doing naval exercises for 20 years in that area. Nothing you can do about it. He's just a very incompetent man, but we're going to probably bring a lawsuit against him. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Bibi, congratulations.
Mr. President, when do you expect an announcement then on Powell's replacement?
January sometime.
And will you ask Jay Powell to resign
Well,
from
he
the
should
board
resign.
entirely?
Be a favor to the nation.
Will
But
you-
he's come close. I mean, we're getting pretty close.
Will you
I would
say-
fire him. I'd love to fire him, but we're so close. Maybe. But maybe I still might.
Will you sell F-35 to Turkey?
Say it.
Are you
Will
going
sell-
to approve a selling of F-35 to Turkey?
We're thinking about it very seriously.
And